This is the Management 411 case analysis number 1 on Thomas Green by Anna, Sean, myself, and Alex. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, 20% of businesses fail within their first year, and 50% fail within their first 5 years due to business mismanagement. But what is business mismanagement? Business mismanagement, according to the Cambridge Dictionary, is a situation in which something such as a company or economy is organized or controlled badly. The case of Thomas Green highlights a conflict between the newly promoted senior market specialist Thomas Green and his direct supervisor due to poor management, misaligned expectations, and differences in work styles. This takes note of the challenges in management, accountability, and shows the need for effective leadership and intervention. The hierarchy goes with Thomas Green as senior market specialist, with Frank Davis right above him as his marketing director, and Shannon McDonald overall seeing the division vice president. The overall problem we would like to highlight and solve is going to be Thomas Green's failure to perform the role of senior marketing specialist in a manner that meets the expectation of his supervisor, Frank Davis. Sean is going to be starting off with the issues.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sean Baumer, and I wanted to take a moment to discuss some of the underlying issues which we believe are contributing to the problem that my colleague Tanner outlined in the last slide. So, after reading case one, we noticed several issues which we believe are attributed to this conflict. First, the manager, Frank Davis, he has showed poor communication of his expectations with his subordinates. He has showed a lack of empathy with others, especially with his subordinates. And he has also failed to implement a proper mentorship program to get his subordinate, Thomas Green, up to speed with his new role. As far as the subordinate Thomas, he has showed difficulty understanding and following instructions. He has failed to seek advice from other managers as far as how to better fulfill his new role. He has showed difficulty communicating a schedule with the supervisor, and possibly most importantly, he seems to display a lack of respect towards his supervisor. So we believe that it's this combination of issues from both parties that are creating the conflict or causing the conflict between Thomas and Frank. So my team and I came up with three different frameworks for analyzing this issue of conflict between the manager and subordinate. The first framework is known as the color personality test. In this test, there are four different categories, each represented by a color, and contain different series of words that include examples such as your level of organization, your level of dependability, your level of responsibility, and so on. And after the test taker fills in numerical values for each of these words, each category is summed, and the two categories with the highest score represent the test taker's personality. The second framework is known as the path goal theory. In this theory, the manager identifies an incentive for the subordinate, such as greater levels of workplace autonomy, and then helps guide the subordinate through workplace goals to achieve these rewards. The third framework is known as leadership grid, and with this framework, the manager ranks themselves on a matrix between 1 and 9 for their levels of concern for results or concerns for people. The goal for this is to develop a high level of concern for each. So ultimately, we ended up basing our presentation primarily off the color personality test.
Alright, here we have our first analysis conclusion, that being the color personality test. So, What the color personality test does is that it helps us understand the personalities of each of these people, that we may potentially um, draw a bridge between the two, so that we may have a better source and better way to communicate with each other. So, first of all, Frank and Thomas both have different primary colors. They're meaning that they both have different um, primary personalities, that being gold and orange. People like Thomas, who exhibit more of the orange spectrum of the personality test, tend to be more free spirited. And if you contrast that with people who are like Thomas, who are golds, they tend to be more punctual. These two personalities tend to conflate a little bit, but what can we draw from this? Well, there we can see that both Thomas and Frank's secondary personalities are green, those being people who see the bigger picture of things. So, this could be a very good starting off point to hopefully, potentially in the future, as we move on from this current situation, have an opportunity through their green second personality to drop a bridge between the two, and so that Frank may guide um, Thomas properly, and Thomas may be more subordinate in the future. But we'll be talking more about that in our recommended tab. All right. All right. So now we have the second conclusion for our slides here that we have for our analysis. We have the path goal theory. So the path goal theory really helps us determine and to figure out what is going on inside the heads of these people. Um, Here we really want to focus on Frank. So what we determine for Frank is Frank's more achievement oriented, or as you can say it, he's more interested with the and concerned with the results rather than the people, the production results. So this can have a lot of trickling down effects in the company, as evident in this case. And this results in Thomas's insubordination towards Frank, because Frank did not and does not give support towards Thomas in his work, because Frank is once again more concerned with the results rather than the people. But as just like any good leader does, the good leader gives his people resources and everything possible to achieve, which Frank is not doing at those moments. As I said before, and I'm reiterating again, um, this is this is leading towards Thomas's subordination towards Frank in a more negative connotation, which is one of the many reasons why there is this dispute and overall conflict within the company between Frank and Thomas. Alright, and on to the last analysis conclusion that we have for our three main um, tools for analysis. We have the leadership grid. So the leadership grid is wonderful, as it really helps us uh, once again understand, get in the minds of these people to better understand their attitude towards not only the company but towards others within the company as well. So, as we stated in the second conclusion for the second analysis for the path goal theory, we stated that Frank's was more achievement oriented and more concerned with the results rather than people. This is evident with his result here for his leadership grid, as we determined that Frank exhibits higher concern for product and low concern for people. Once again, just driving back home, the previous result that we have for him in the path call theory. Now that same result is carried over to the leadership grid. Again, this affects Thomas in a more negative manner in the path goal theory, but instead of talking about that, we're going to talk about what Thomas is, his attitudes towards the company and what he values more. So Thomas exhibits a higher concern for people, or should I say clients, and a lower concern for production. So here we have a different clash of personalities between the two, as stated in the first analysis conclusion for the colors personalities test. The different personalities really show in the leadership grid analysis conclusion that we have here. The different personalities will, and of course, lead to different emphasis on what they both focus on within the company. Later on within the slide, the next slide with the possible solutions, I'm gonna have one of my classmates talk about the three possible solutions from the analysis conclusions in which I covered here, in which could possibly resolve this issue within the company of um, between Thomas's insubordination and Frank's lacking leadership. Thank you.
Seeing the results from the different framework analysis presented by my colleague, it appears that the manager and subordinates' personalities are at opposite ends of the spectrum. This leaves us with three possible solutions. Option 1, we could terminate Thomas Green for lack of performance in his role as the senior market specialist. Option 2, we could schedule individual meetings with the manager and subordinate to coach them in the process of learning to work together and strengthening emotional intelligence. Option 3, we could reform the leadership model within our organization.
Hi everyone, my name is Anna Stover and I'm going to continue where my teammate left off and explain which of the three solutions that we ended up choosing. So, the recommended action that we decided would be best for this company was to individually meet with all of the involved parties for a few different reasons. The first of which was we wanted to share what the results of the color personality tests were with all of the individuals. We think that that's something that every individual should know about themselves so that they can be aware of their actions and how their personality affects the interactions with their coworkers, with other people in their lives, with all of those things. We also really want to emphasize the importance of emotional intelligence within the organization as a whole, and this is a step towards increasing it. Secondly, we want to sit down and meet with all of them because we want to explicitly share what each person's role should be and will be moving forward. For example, Shannon McDonald will act as a coach and support role through the process, so they're going to be a lot more involved in this process and the overall guidelines of this. We're also going to speak with Frank Davis about how he needs to be more clear in his expectations and explain why that expectation is necessary. Similarly, we're going to talk with Green about why his actions are important and why it's important for him to follow the instructions that he's been given. This way, every single person is very clear on what is expected of them, what is needed, what is wanted. And with that, we are also going to schedule frequent follow-up meetings to discuss progress, ensure that this plan is going according to plan, and evaluate how it's going and how it's being implemented. So building off of what I just said in the previous slide, these are some of the expected results that we think will come from this plan, the first of which is increased emotional intelligence, both with all of the people involved in this event, but company-wide. We need to make sure that Frank and Thomas are able to adequately work together and communicate. That's something that's necessary for this position to work, and we think that this plan will produce that result. In addition, Thomas will be able to keep his job, which saves the company a lot of resources. As you can see with the calculations, the termination loss of his job would end up being around $187,500, which is not something that we believe is an adequate loss for this job, when it could easily be fixed by just taking the person that's currently in the position and filling in the gaps of what's missing and increasing the training for that role. So with that, we also avoid discrimination charges. So that could be a potential lawsuit that could hurt the company's reputation. Overall, it could create the possibility of a solution that it creates the possibility of an event we really don't want to occur. In addition, if Thomas were to be fired from this position, we would have to expend the time, the energy, the resources, and money for scouting and finding new talent to fill that role. And then on top of that, also provide the same instruction and training and things that we are already needing to provide Thomas. We would have to do that for someone that has no experience in this role. So that's a huge reason of why we think that he should keep his job, but we need to further train him and explain exactly his expectations to help fill in the gaps of what he is missing. Finally, the root cause of all of these scenarios and all of these issues is through the lack of communication and understanding. We hope that through providing the information about the differences between Frank and Green's personality tests, through their path goal theory and their leadership grid, explaining how they have differing results in that and how that has caused their clashes, their lack of communication, will better help them understand each other, but also help them better communicate and understand how to work together as a whole. Through this, we hope to clarify expectations, improve communication, and emphasize skill development between the two and within the company as a whole. Thank you so much for listening to our presentation, and we hope that it helps you with your decision making and that you have a great rest of your night. Thank you.